on the dot. Lisa, if we can do a roll call, please.
Matt Blanchett. Ken Cleveland.
Here.
Rosanna Glenn.
Here.
Shannon Hughes Brown.
Here.
Ken Jackson.
Here.
Blaze Messenger.
Here.
John Post.
Here.
Jessica Lamb. Here. Heather Jacobs. Here. Dr. Macri.
Here.
Selena Kelleher. Here. Alan Schumann.
Here.
Steve Fortenbach.
Here.
And Paula Luna.
Here.
I didn't do the whole list, so we're good.
We're good? Okay. The agenda, make a correction. So, subcommittee put a nice presentation together that pretty much covers items 6 and 7B and 7C. So I think we're just gonna roll that all into item 6. So, item 6 is really gonna contain the introductions, the project review, and the committee expectations. And then we'll move on to new business after that. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda with those edits, say aye.
Motion first.
Oh, is there a motion? Sorry. Motion? Anyone to
So
approve
moved.
it? Second? Thank you. Now, is there anyone in favor of approving the agenda with those changes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay. All right. Minutes. Everyone got a copy of the September 1st minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the September 1st meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Very good. Public comments. Mayor Fortenbach. Want to come right here? You can sit, Matt, and speak in the microphone, please.
Hi, everybody. Just a couple things I wanted to go over. One, as of 3:46 this afternoon, the town hall had both contracts returned from the two vendors. There's just going to be just a brief comparison side by side to make sure that everything made it into the contract. But as long as it is what was submitted, and it sounds like there's a couple slight changes, but nothing monumental. Otherwise, it'll be approved. It'll be signed, and then POs will be issued for that. But so that's, don't hold me to it, but it sounds like that's where it's going. So just based on what I understand, and that's as of, again, 3:46 this afternoon. So, well, I needed that information. I said, if I'm coming, I need to know where we're at with that before I come here. So I thought that was good news, right? We're moving in the right direction. Second, as far as town council and the town manager goes, I want to institute a rotating schedule. I know Paul has been great about coming to the meetings, but I'd like a member of the town council to be here at every meeting. I know you're still doing them every other week, correct? So I'd like somebody from the town council to be here. I'm going to ask the town manager be at least one of the monthly meetings. I'm not going to ask him to be at both. I'll see, or if he can get himself or a director or a delegate from his office. I think that'd be good. And I think that's it from town council. And I'm going to regret saying this, but I think in the same fashion that you did a selection for the previous firms, I would move ahead and select, assuming that Sharon DeVoe will be the fourth, pick 3 members for a new selection for the next piece of the construction management. Yes, thank you. I even got her name right. Does anybody have questions for me?
No questions from me, but just a comment. Thank you. It's really, really good to have that engagement. So thank you.
I'm going to apologize. There's also the athletic fields committee that's happening right now. I thought this meeting was at 6, so I thought I was going to seamlessly move them together. But I'll hang out for a little bit, but I'm going to try and get over there also because they're going to be receiving their charge at our meeting on Monday. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Again, the work you're doing here is it's thankless, and I understand. but you're doing a fantastic job, and the community recognizes it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Any other public comments? Okay. All right. So we like I mentioned.
There was no emails either.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sure he mentioned that.
I know. I keep forgetting to ask. These, like I mentioned earlier, the communication subcommittee put a nice presentation together for us. So we're going to go through it. Just some background information, introductory information, just to kind of get you up to speed as quickly as possible. If any time you have any questions, just holler, ask.
Do you want me to go through?
Sure. So we're just going to introduce the building committee, overview of the project, just a little bit of brief journey through history of everything we've done since the building committee took position back in Marchish, and then what our expectations are moving forward. So why don't we just go around and we'll just introduce ourselves, some background information, some of the skills we bring to the committee, and whatever else you think will be relevant for our new partners to know. So Shannon, let's start with you and go around.
My name is Shannon Hughes Brown. My pronouns are she, her. Can you hear me? Sometimes you can't hear me.
It doesn't, is it on?
Yeah, it is on.
There it goes.
Is that better? I'm the vice chair of the committee. I'm also the chair of the communications subcommittee, and I've lived in Cromwell, I think it says on there, 14 years. I'm a communications professional. I've worked in aerospace, I've worked in the energy sector, and I've worked in higher education. And I have 2 kids in the Cromwell School District. I have a 3rd grader and I have a 6th grader.
Rosanna Glenn, I'm the chairperson for this committee. I've been in Cromwell for 16 years. I'm a project engineer, project management professional, bunch of other certifications in Agile Scrum. Been doing project my entire career of 22 plus odd years. I work at Pratt Whitney. Been with the Pratt Whitney / Raytheon family my entire career. I also have 2 kids in the middle school, twins, and a high schooler. And I'm very excited about this next phase of this project. Ken?
I'm a retired facility director for public schools in Connecticut. I've dealt for 36 years in public schools, Cheshire, Middletown, Westport, and the last 7 after I retired out of Middletown was Colchester. I have approximately $250 million of school construction experience working with building committees in all the school districts that I was at. I was chair of a building committee in this town for our intermediate school, and I was vice chair of a high school building committee in this town many years back. I'm looking forward to closing out this project, and probably this will be the last hurrah.
My name's John Post. I'm a lifelong resident of Cromwell, so you know how old I am. I'm carpenter, lead carpenter in the city of Middletown for the Board of Education Facilities Department. So I'm really looking forward to this phase as well. Sixth grader. Also, I forgot. Oh my God, I forgot. Yeah, and a 6th grader. Too.
Hi, I'm Ken Cleveland. I've been living here in Cromwell for about 16 years. I have 2 kids. Both of them are here in the middle school. I actually went to school with Mike, graduated a couple of years before him. Now I'm a licensed architect. I work for Sendenbrook.
I'm Blaze Messenger. Some of you may recognize my last name. I have lived here 19 years. I teach 6th grade right out there to the left, and I am looking forward to closing that classroom and getting to a new one.
My name is Heather Jacobs. I am been in Cromwell for 17 years. I have a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. I work revenue cycle analyst for a health system, and I work closely with Jess and with Shannon on the communications subcommittee.
All
right, good evening. My name is Jessica Lamb, resident here for about 18 years. I am an engineer by degree, but I don't trust me to design anything because I haven't done that for a really long time. I am a supply chain professional. I manage a materials planning organization, so kind of in the logistics realm. At home, I am a mom to 3 boys, all in the school system here. You probably hear a theme. I have a 3rd grader, a 6th grader, and an 8th grader. Blaze is probably getting to know all of our kids pretty well along with us. So he's going to be done with us pretty soon.
My name is first in all these homes.
Yeah. But no, I as well, you heard, I'm a member of the communications subcommittee, and you'll probably hear in a couple minutes, but it's really exciting to be a part of this team. And you're going to hear a lot of those words, I think, tonight, that, a lot of the collaboration, the teamwork, how we work through conflict and all those great things. This really is a group of folks that is passionate about what we're here to do. So just want to say welcome, and it's nice to meet you all.
Dr. Macri, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Enza Macri. I've been the superintendent in this is my 4th year. I can't believe it's gone by so quickly. Before that, I was the associate superintendent in Middletown, and before that, I was the principal of Lawrence School, where Ken was the facilities person, and the only thing I got to do to close out the brand new school was he said, sign on the dotted line. We're giving back $96,000. And I said, no, we need that money. He goes, too late, girl. You're a few months too late. So no, not new to building projects, and with Ken. And I'm just so excited. I'm elated about this. Our kids deserve it. It's about time. I'm so happy the community heard, and they would have never heard if it wasn't for these amazing people between our board and this committee. It's just so exciting. And thank you to the town of Cromwell for hearing our plea. And it's nice to meet all of you. I'm sure I just have to get used to the new faces. And I look forward to working with you. And I'm a pain in the neck about certain things. Curriculum, mostly.
Thank you.
Sure.
Lisa, do you want to say something quick?
Lifelong
Lisa.
resident like John, my age, almost there. Two children went through the system. Left Cromwell, been working here for as long as almost 25 years, and I love it.
And we also have our Board of Ed Chair, Selena. Do you want to say anything?
I just want to thank you all for everything that you're doing. So we can focus on our work. So we appreciate you.
Okay.
Mother of 3 kids also. We're about same amount of time as everyone else is here, about 16 years. Hera at school in Portland.
Thank you. Thank you. Could we just do some introductions on that end of the table, just quickly?
We have a little PowerPoint. If we could get that plugged in and we can just
Yeah.
do that really quick.
You want to do that before we go through this, or do you want to go through this first? Yeah, let's go through this, and then if you got something set up, we'll do that right afterwards. How's that? Okay. All right. Let's do that. Okay. We'll go through this real quick. So this just breaks down our government, our community. We have our mayor, Steve Formbach, who was here previously. He had to leave. And there's 7 members in the town council. And then the Board of Education, both are elected in this town. The building committee was appointed by the town council. We have 9 appointed members, so 7 voting members and 2 alternates. Are you all right? Oh, okay. And then within our group, we have that subcommittee for the communications committee. The town manager is appointed, or is an employee, that's what we're calling it, employee of the town council, as well as the police chief. And then the finance director, town engineer, and parks and rec all report to the town manager. The Board of Education, there's 9 members. Superintendent falls under that group, and then she has a finance director and director of district operations that report to the superintendent, as well as all the teachers and staff. And then the bottom is just all the remaining stakeholders on the project. So our mission is primarily to prepare students for the future, building that safe, modern middle school. Excuse me, my throat. Creating an inclusive atmosphere. Oh my gosh, like something in my throat. Sorry about that. I should have brought my water. I didn't bring it. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Creating an inclusive atmosphere for all the students. And we'll get into that a little bit with the slides towards the end. Fostering innovation in an advanced learning environment, and really enabling that STEAM curriculum, the science, technology, engineering, art, mathematics, which is really not existent in full capacity right now today. So this building committee was established by the town council in January. That's when we were all nominated and elected in. We actually had our first building committee meeting in March. I'm not sure why it took so long, but that's when the mayor at that point had set up the first meeting, and that's really when we were kicked off to start work. From there, we did tours, we did open houses, we did a lot of outreach with our community, trying to get viewpoints from everyone. We did a lot. There's a lot that happened in that short amount of time. Basically told it was impossible, but we made it happen. We went to referendum in June, and then submitted the grant to the state of Connecticut by the deadline at the end of June. And then pretty much you all went through the RFP process. You're here now, and we're kicking off phase 2, which is our design phase. This is the exciting phase, I think, even sometimes more than the actual building. It's like, I love design phase. So some of our values as a team, I think, was important to share, because it's going to be a constant theme moving forward for all of us, not just the building committee, but everyone that we work and interact with. We are all working towards a shared purpose, and our focus is the students and the community. We're transparent and maintain open and honest communication. That's extremely important to us. We strive to be as transparent as possible. We don't hide anything. We hear it all. We welcome all comments from the public. You'll hear negative, you'll hear positive. We have, conflicts that come up. We lay it all out. We think it's really important that we have an open discussion about it. That's how we feel we can build trust with the community on this project. We collaborate as a team and with all stakeholders, so we listen to everyone's viewpoint. We respect each other's opinions, and we are, again, open to that honest communication. We act with integrity. We do what we say what we do. That's really important as well. We don't try to promise anything, but if there's anything that we say we're going to do, we make sure we do it. Engage with the community and value all members' feedback. This is something that's really important to us. We are constantly asking for the community to give us their viewpoints, to come to these meetings, provide us their thoughts, what they want, what they don't want. We take it all in. We take note of all of them, every single comment. You'll see towards the end some of the feedback that we have gotten so far to date. And finally, we act with respect. We listen to all opinions and adhere to our meeting norms. And that's, again, we want to make sure that there are no bad thoughts, no bad opinions. We listen to everything, and we try to respond to each other with as much respect and least amount of tension as possible. So this is the current state of the building. As you saw during the tour, there is lots and lots and lots of room of improvement. I mean, you really couldn't go wrong with any new building compared to what we have today. There's safety, potential issues. There's facility conditions that are really not healthy, I would say. And then the obvious programmatic needs. We have labs that are undersized, rooms that are undersized. Our arts areas are completely not even structured anywhere near for the capacity of the students that are actually taking them, like our band rooms and our art room and our choir room. So all of that, like I said, there's only up from here. So when we had to make our decision between renovation and building new, we had 4 really key decision factors. The first was safety. If you noticed when you walk into the front entrance, the cafeteria juts out and the parking lot is hidden from that main area. So the admin area really can't see the parking lot. They can't see any potential nefarious people coming through. And you couldn't really do anything about that aside from breaking down that whole area of the building and restructuring everything and adding a tremendous amount of cost to the whole project. So that was one factor that went into going with a new build. The curriculum, this building, the way it's structured, we would never be able to group the sciences together or the arts together, just the way it was structured. And then even if we put an addition in, it still wouldn't be ideal. You still would have to cross a lot to get to where you needed to go. So though it was doable, it would have made it less ideal for the amount of money we'd be putting into it. Then there's the cost differential. And the cost differential between the three options, we had an option to basically keep the school and just renovate with the footprint we had. We had the second option, which was to build an addition to the building and then build new. The difference was like maybe $2 million between all three options. And that was a lot due to the staging that would be required for this building, added a tremendous amount of cost, the abatement, all that work that you would have to do. And then the final part, the student impact during construction, if we did any kind of renovation work, it could take almost 5 years to do it. That means a student's full middle school experience would have been in a construction zone, possibly, and that was not really something we could digest well. So these are the main four. There are other reasons for it, but these are the top 4 reasons why we decided to go with a new build. And then the cost estimate on the right, which you probably saw in the proposal work. Okay, so the auditorium is one of the biggest things that we're going to probably talk about moving forward. We already know they're going to need a waiver for the auditorium because, thank you, we're going to go larger than what the state allows for the number of students that we have. But this is something that we've had multiple people come to us, come to the Board of Ed, go to the Town Council, and voicing their support for an auditorium that is sized enough for the full population of the school and for our community needs as well. So we want to retain the same number of seats that we have today. In fact, there was even talk about maybe upping it by 20 seats or 30, like making it a little bit bigger if possible. Like that's something we'll have to talk about. The stage size itself has to be at least that size or a little bit bigger. But the storage area is really the part that's the problem today. We have no storage, whether it's on the side of the stage or the back of the stage. There's no space for anyone to put any of their theater props or whatever they build or things like that. So we really need more space between the wings and behind the stage for the performers. And some of the community feedback that we got, sustainability has come up over and over again, making sure that we have things like solar panels or the capability to install solar panels, high levels of energy efficiency, utilizing a building structure that will maximize our heating and air conditioning capabilities and things like that to keep our costs down and improve efficiency. Electric vehicle charging stations for faculty, staff, or even visitors who may have electric cars. Athletics, the turf field is going to be a huge discussion point as well. So because we're building on top of the current soccer field, we will have to build a new soccer field where this building currently sits. There's a lot of controversy around the soccer fields in town because every time it rains, they basically have to close all the fields because none of them can withstand any amount of rain and they get really muddy. So they would like at least one turf field where if they were to have a game or the high school has a game, there's somewhere they can go play even if it's after a storm or something of that nature. The turf field, we understand, would not be covered by the state. It would be something that the town would have to go and fund themselves, but we do want to do the legwork in providing that package to them and the recommendations to them as to whether or not going with this turf field would be for best interest of the town. And then the proximity of the softball field to the building. So behind the soccer field, there's a softball field. There's actually a softball field next to a baseball field. So that softball field, we just have to be, wary about the fact that that softball field will be close to the building. We already know we're probably going to have to rotate it, and because of the state standards, I forgot what that's called, but we'd have to add, was it? Title IX, we'd have to add dugouts to that softball field, which do not exist today. So just things to keep in mind as we move forward. For health and safety, natural light's a big thing. We went to tour a school and just observed how different it felt to be in the school with actual natural light coming through the windows. It was just like, I wish I went to school that had that, instead of like a dungeon feel. So natural light's really, really important. But, balancing that with acoustics. We don't want everything glass and then having sound bouncing off everything either. Safety features with an outdoor amphitheater, making sure that if we do go with an outdoor amphitheater, that there is some kind of safety protocol so that strangers don't just come up to that learning area while kids are in session. The ability to lock down from anywhere. So if, the current plan proposal that we had each of the grades in pods. And the idea was that if an intruder were to come in, someone could theoretically push a button or do some kind of alert that would shut down all the different pods at once. So something to that effect. Really looking at being able to lock down and how quickly you can lock down the building if you needed to. And then if there's an indoor courtyard, fire escape safety, obviously, for that area as well. As far as community and culture, so the parking lot is another point of contention. We don't have enough parking at the school. Anytime there's a big event, people are parking on the grass, they're parking on the street. It's just mayhem. So we need to add more parking spaces. We probably won't get away from having parent drop-off happening from Gear Street, meaning that main street right there. Any concept of moving that entry point to one of the neighboring one of the neighborhoods around the property is probably not going to fly. So we currently have the buses routing through the neighborhood. I don't remember. Do you know what the name of the street is over? What's the name of the street? Raymond? Yeah. So the buses do that for their loop, but for parent drop-off, it's all off Gear Street. So making sure the parking lots are easily plowed, where you're going to put the snow. There's a memorial out front that we want to preserve. There's the dinosaur prints that we want to preserve. And there's a Gear Street project that may or may not happen next door. I'm not sure if you're all aware of that, but they're building potentially a truck depot. So we just need to be wary about that. I'm not sure if there's anything that this project could do regards to that. Probably not, but it's just something to keep in mind that's happening potentially. Inclusiveness, the noise sound management of an open foyer. So if we do go with an open foyer, we just have to be mindful of that. Obviously, handicap accessibility to all the entrances. All gender restrooms and locker rooms, in addition to the gender-specific restrooms and locker rooms, will be something that we want to add, and I think that's also in the ed spec. No carpet in the hallways. Random, but we don't like that. Electric outlets on tables and media center. Again, these are just comments we're getting back from the community that we're keeping track of all of it and open for discussion. And then being mindful what rooms are near the nurse's office. Like right now, the band room is near the nurse's office. So if you have a child in there with a major headache and the band's blaring away, it's not the best combination. So that was about it. Any questions on any of that? Yeah, we'll send that to you. It'll get linked? Okay, great. So I'm just going to do a quick update under new business, and then we'll open up for your presentation. Okay. I have a really quick update today, believe it or not. Usually they're long, but I'm going to keep it short today. So I would first like to welcome our new partners in the project, Perkins Eastman and Arcadis. Thank you for being here this evening. We're very excited to have you here and are very eager to get this project moving again. Today is our kickoff meeting for phase 2, design phase, my favorite phase. The goal here is to be shovel ready by July 2023. The only meeting I attended since our last meeting was a town council meeting on September 14th, which was last Wednesday. I gave my submitted report and then added on a recommendation to the town council to revisit the purchasing policy, again, to clarify the role of this building committee and any future building committee in the purchasing process. As was discussed with the town manager and finance director, the policy needs to clarify what the role of a building committee is in the process, because today the committee officially holds no role regardless of what our charge could infer. Anyway, I made the recommendation not specifying what those changes should be, by the way, and then left since I had a commitment to attend to. It was brought to my attention that after I had left, there was some discussion about my requests and comments were made that were incorrect. I was going to go over it all here, but for the sake of time and our anxiety level, I will just say that Shannon and I are drafting a memo to the town council spelling out what the actual change requests are and the justification for them. We did research, looked at purchasing policies of our neighboring towns and even building committee roles and responsibilities to see where best practices are and what could Cromwell learn from these towns to ultimately benefit our community. So expect to present this letter to the town council at their next meeting in October. And that's all I had. Any questions? Okay. Here we go.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Costa. I'm very happy that we were selected for this project. It's a wonderful opportunity. We're looking forward to working with your community and this building committee and everybody else in town. And we too are collaborators, and we too are careful listeners, and we spend a lot of time absorbing what people tell us and then translating that into architecture, beautiful buildings, light-filled spaces that you really want to be in. So that's very exciting for us. Middle schools are great opportunities because it's really that transition period between elementary school and high school, and it's that all those changes in the students, emotional, physical, intellectual, that transition is so important, getting them ready for the high school experience. And a lot will happen in this building, a lot of changes, and the direction of the children will depend on what happens here. And what we want to do is obviously create a tool that the teachers, educators, parents, students can use to make that transition as successful as possible. That's very important. A couple minutes, I'm going to just, sorry, this one, I got to get the right clicker. So we're Perkins Eastman. We're located in Stamford. All of the work that will be done on this school will emanate out of Stamford, Connecticut. We do have a New York City office and a bunch of other offices all around the world. Our practice, our K-12 practice is quite robust. It's generally about 30 to 40% of our overall work across the entire enterprise, and we do some very large projects. What's important about that is the firm as a whole shares best practices and what we've learned doing schools in many other communities, and we'll bring that knowledge and that experience to your project, and it's really sort of the latest thinking, and we'll be able to tell you what other districts are doing and what's worked there and what hasn't worked, and that'll help kind of guide the process as far as how we design your school on this particular site. The firm is about 40 years old. Brad Perkins is our founding principal. His father and grandfather were both school design architects. They were located in Chicago. Brad decided to bring his office to New York and really start down here in this part of the world. He wanted to be separate from Dad. You probably heard, you know, his Perkins and Will, that's that small firm. That was his dad, believe it or not. And oftentimes there's some confusion, so don't be confused. It's Perkins Eastman. But school design and school excellence is really built into our DNA. It's one of our most important practice sectors, and it's the one that we're passionate about. Personally, I've been doing public schools for almost 3 decades, here in Connecticut, as well as Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and even in Rhode Island. So I've done a lot of schools in this particular region and have a lot of projects that are completed under my belt. So that's a thing that we'll be bringing to your committee. We're also known for thought leadership. So I mentioned that we do a lot of schools, and so not only do we share that knowledge, but we also make sure that we bring best practices to all of the different offices across the entire enterprise. While we don't design for awards, we do win many awards. We've won over 250 awards for design excellence, and we don't start off by saying we're going to design award winning, but we are always thinking about design, and we're always thinking about creating the best environment for teaching and learning that we can possibly do. But at the same time, we do cost-effective design. So I've never had a client say to me, Joe, you've got endless amount of money, design whatever you want. And, you know, Jack and I actually go back 2.5 decades, so I don't think Jack's ever heard that, but maybe someday, Jack. But that's okay, because, you know, we do maximize the funds that you have. We'll guide the committee in the town as far as where things have to be adjusted to make sure that you meet that budget. We know that you have a finite pot of money, and that pot of money has to be divided many, many, many places. And so it looks like a lot of money, but once you divide it up, it doesn't look so big anymore. And we know that the cost of everything, from a banana all the way up to a concrete brick, you know, everything is just costing a lot more money. So that dollar just doesn't go as far as it does, and we'll be, you know, guiding you as far as what's feasible within your pot of money. The other thing is we spend a lot of time developing relationships. Oftentimes our committee members end up personal friends, and we stay in touch over many, many years, including, you know, the educators and things like that. And that's one of the part of the jobs that we really like, because we go through communities after communities, and every community is different. And one of the pleasures of doing schools is discovering what makes Cromwell unique, and then reflecting that in your design, in the way the building is organized, the way it sits on the property. All those kinds of things will influence our design team and ultimately how we design a custom school for your community. And that building has to be there for generations. This particular building, designed in probably the mid-50s, this was a result of what was going on in those days, and you certainly have gotten your money's worth out of it. Another 70 years, somebody will be looking back at this building and saying, boy, they did a nice job. And that's what we really want to do for you guys. And through my many years of working with the state, we have a very good relationship with our partners in Hartford. And so one of the important components is making sure that you get your fair share. Jack and I have spent many meetings and discussions with the crew up in Hartford. And together we'll make sure that you get your fair share and you get some speedy reviews. And that's going to be important, because this has got a very short time frame, and we want to make sure that those approvals come your way as quickly as possible. And you mentioned sustainability architecture and energy efficient, and the firm is very much interested in a sustainable future, and we'll be spending a lot of time demonstrating how the orientation of the building, our fenestration, our wall thicknesses, our roof, solar panel, all those kinds of things will be brought to bear. We know every trick in the book when it comes to designing a sustainable building, and we'll be bringing that to your attention for consideration. So all those things sort of contribute to a very pleasant and exciting journey. We'll be working very closely. There will be ups and downs, no question about it. But at the end, it'll be a fantastic building, and it will be built within your budget. So that's the important thing. The team, I only have a couple of team members with me. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. At the end of the table is Mike Berger. He's your design principal. He's going to talk a little bit about his experience. And while he doesn't have quite 3 decades, you're catching up quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing about Mike is that Mike and I worked together before Mike even had a beard. He's still trying to
Still
grow
working on
one,
it,
right?
yeah.
So
Okay.
he's getting better. And then to my right is Joe Collada. He's going to be really your day-to-day contact. He's your project manager and super experienced school architect and really a good communicator. I think you're going to enjoy working with him. The 3 people on the bottom you're going to see often also is Lauren Giamundo, who's a project architect. She's just finishing up a very large job actually in the Bronx and is excited about doing something that does not involve a subway or a river.
Below the building.
Below the,
Yeah.
or, right,
We're happy that just ended.
Yeah.
Yes.
or Metro North Railroad.
Yeah.
So you're gonna like her. She's terrific and extremely good at what she does. The fellow in the middle came to our interview. It's Mike Walsh. He's a principal with engineering company, CES. Actually, maybe 10 minutes away from this particular site. We selected them because of their proximity to the school and the community, as well as their vast experience. And those guys are super focused on sustainability, and they're going to also work with us and our sustainability team to show you some of the options available to you, both from mechanical and controls and everything else that goes with it. And what I like about Mike is he can explain those complicated things very clearly, so everybody around the table will understand it, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask him questions, because those systems are very complicated. It's not like the old days where we had a boiler and some hot water pipes. These things are sophisticated, and there's pluses and minuses to all of them. The fellow on the right is Mike Segan. He's your landscape architect. The 2 Mikes are going to be working very closely as they develop the site planning, the massing of the building, where it sits, and all the relationships that go with everything from bus loops, parents, playscapes, all that kind of stuff. And I got to tell you, he's an expert at schools. I mean, he understands the orientation of ball fields, what works, what doesn't work, understands drainage. Some of the things that you talked about will be solved by his group. And he, too, has a way of explaining these site plans, and he'll show you the pros and cons for all these different things. So really a terrific group. You guys want to say a little bit?
Sure. Hey, guys. Nice to see some of you again. So I'm an architect, design principal, so I have the fun job. So I'll be leading the creative kind of side of this with the rest of the team, and the whole org chart continues down off the screen. So we have a fantastic team working on this. That's kind of behind the scenes, but we'll be with you, at every meeting. Been doing this for over 21 years. Can't believe it's been 20 years since we graduated. Where'd that go? So I've been working with Joe for every 21 of those. I was with him at a prior firm, and then he convinced me to come over here to Perkins Eastman. And we work primarily on K-12 projects. So we have a passion of school projects. This is what we do, and we love it. It's a challenge often, but it's a very rewarding profession. Thank you for running through the presentation. Seems like our vision, your vision, and the community's visions are very aligned, including the no carpet in the hallways. It's just, not a good idea. And it's kind of refreshing. I grew up in Berlin, next door. I live a little bit farther away, and I lived a few miles down the road in Middletown, and those 10,000 condos up on the hill there. Spent some years there, so it's kind of nice to be working closer to home, so to speak. So. And it is refreshing to hear the enthusiasm and passion on this committee. That's not always the case, unfortunately, in many municipalities. So I think hopefully we're off to a good start. So nice to meet you.
I'm Joe Collada. I'll be your project manager, and as Joe said, I'll be your day-to-day contact. Be managing the team, working with Arcadis, and working up with the state, and going to the PCRs and all those reviews with them. Know them pretty well. I've been with Perkins Eastman over 16 years. I have 20 years of school experience in various states: Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. So looking very much forward to working on this project. Sure.
We're going to get right into what's important, starting with the schedule. Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can
Oh, yeah.
you can see it, yeah.
Yeah, so looking at the schedule, it's a pretty standard design schedule. The next month, we'll be looking at program verification and concept design. We'll be looking at site zoning and code analysis at the start, defining the scope of the project and the project goals, as well as meeting with stakeholders. Moving into November and December will be schematic design. That's where we develop the massing, the plan, adjacencies, the exterior design, site layout. And it's more of a general design phase. Then after Christmas, New Year's, we'll be moving into design development. That's more of developing the building more in detail and specifics, and product selection, system design, the mechanical systems, the lighting systems. And then moving after that would be construction documents, which is where we get into the meat of documenting everything for the construction team. That's a 3-month period. After that will be document review and approvals with the state. And then bidding and GMP once we get state approval to go out to bid. And then the construction phase, which I think is 18 months. And we'll develop the move-in for FF&E in, looks like, March of 2025. And then we'll be following that with the demolition and further site development of this part of the site.
You know, as we get closer to the actual construction phase, there's going to be a decision, you know, that you guys have to make as far as when do we start the demolition of the old school, and whether that's worth waiting a little bit until perhaps the summer when contractors can get in and do a little bit more with nobody on the site, or do you move the children in before the end of the spring semester and then do the demolition? There's going to be pros and cons. Do not have to make that decision tonight, but it's something that you want to think about. And by the way, you know, the schedule is going to have some, you know, accordion effect, so some things may take a little longer, some things may take a little bit shorter. Each one of the design phases will be followed up with a construction estimate check, and we'll be spending a lot of time with the OPM, Jack and his team, as well as with the construction management team, going through each line item carefully to make sure that our designs stay within the budget. So that's going to be a kind of a fun part of finishing up each design phase.
Quick question. Along your design process, do you have like standard review points that you would need our input or approval to, like, and how many and where would they be roughly on here?
Yeah, Rosanna, we haven't gone that granular. There's a much bigger schedule.
But there is like there is something that
There is.
we would get involved at some point. And
Yes.
Right, because you have such a rapid schedule, we're going to be asking you for decisions practically every time we come to
Okay.
you. And what we'll do is we'll let you know ahead of time so that you can kind of think about them. And you know, sometimes a presentation will be made in this week, and then the following meeting, decisions will be made. We'll let you know about that. You know, there's going to be some things that you guys are going to have to decide fairly quickly.
Okay.
The other thing that we really haven't talked about is Dr. Macri's office. Yeah, we have to think about what her office is.
There's a lot of spiders in it. What else do you want to know?
Right, you need a sink and some more storage, right?
All we care about is the sink where we can wash our dishes.
She's not gonna wait to move in. She's as soon as those doors open, she's out of there.
You know, we saw the ed specs for the school. It looks
Yep.
great, but we haven't seen anything for your office.
You didn't get the ed specs?
No, I didn't. All we had was the gross square footage, but we have no idea how that square footage was arrived. We don't know how many people you're serving. If you could send that to us, that would be great. So obviously, part of the school, we're designing your central office, and there is some sensitivities about how the two interface. And, you know, you are a public entity, so that you've got a lot of people coming to your building, you know, from all over the place, and we don't want those folks wandering through our school. So how we deal with security, supervision, arrival, separations, all that stuff is going to be a very important part of the design of this particular building.
I'll
You know,
send Joe a copy of the ed spec.
Great, great. So we're not forgetting about you, and we're going to make sure that you've got a great office that works efficiently. Yeah. And right, no spiders, I got it.
She wants a sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In looking at the schedule, is the program verification, is that where we would start soliciting community input, or is that, am I getting ahead of your presentation? You can tell me
Yes
if I
and
am.
yes. So what
We're
we
very
wanna-
eager.
What we want to do is first sit with the educators to verify nothing has changed in the program. I know it's a fairly young program, but if anything has changed or any adjustments have to be made, we want to do that before we dive into design. The community discussion, that's something that what we'd like to do is listen to you guys, and you need to let us know if you want your community to be involved in the concept development, or do you want them to respond to some of the concepts that perhaps you guys have said okay to? So you kind of got to give us a little guidance on that. And, you know, every community is different as far as, you know, who they want to involve. Some communities say, no, we're going to do it ourselves. We don't want to talk to anybody else. Others want to invite the world. You need to decide how you want us to do that. We'll be glad to talk to anybody. And
Yeah.
we'll adjust our presentations accordingly. So if there's a lot of detail you want us to tell somebody, we'll make our presentation that way. If it's more general, like where the footprint of the building is going, we'll adjust that presentation in that manner.
I feel like when we get down to like details, like the individual rooms or the layout of, you know, the athletic section or the nurses section or whatever, like maybe get
Yeah.
direct feedback, invite those people be directly impacted by that into the meeting and have them look at it and provide their feedback.
Yeah. We definitely want to talk to the educators for their spaces. We want to spend time making sure that those rooms are properly
Yeah.
laid out, and there's the, you know, proper position for all of the components that go in it. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of guidance that we'll provide based on our experience in you know, past projects. So I think that's going to go fairly quickly, but we want to make sure that the appropriate people are involved in those. Okay? Next steps, Joe, you want to cover?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So next steps will be collect all existing site and building documentation, drawings, reports, and specifications.
Look here, you look here.
Yeah, let me move this over here. We're going to set up the meetings as we just discussed with the educators to verify the ed spec and develop the central office program, which we get an ed spec on that. Update the ed spec and central office programs based on those meetings. Meet with design subcommittee of the building committee.
Yeah, let's stop there for a second. So oftentimes, we have seen large committees like this set up a smaller design subcommittee. Is that something that you guys have talked about as a potential, or do you want everybody to be involved in that stuff? You know, I know you have the communication subcommittee, but oftentimes there's a design subcommittee. You
I'll say
don't
we
have to answer
haven't
that
talked
question.
about
Yeah.
it.
It's been so much work, I'll just do it.
I don't know if we actually talked about that.
We haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it. We didn't know that was a thing.
Well, what happens is it makes the conversations in the building committee meetings that much more efficient.
Okay.
So if there's a detail or something that has to be brought to the full committee, that subcommittee will often bring it to a larger group for a decision. But it allows us to progress the designs a little bit quicker because we're dealing with a smaller group.
How soon would you need that subcommittee put together?
You can think about it, and
Okay.
maybe at the next meeting you can tell us whether or not there is one.
So then we'd be looking to set up design workshops either with the educators or with the community to see if you decide that if you want to go in that route. And then we commence with the schematic design phase and layouts and the design of the project. Joe also mentioned that we've already brought on board the surveyor to get them out in front, get them scheduled to do the survey for the project. So that the lead time on that's already started.
Okay, good.
What's next? Is that it?
That's pretty much probably our shortest presentation ever.
Very
But,
nice.
you know, it sort of gives you a sense of what we're about and what we're going. And by the way, always open communication, any one of us, okay? So please do not hesitate. If there's something that you have a question about, if there's something that you don't like, by all means, just reach out to us. That's what we want to hear. We don't want people to just keep that stuff to themselves. So please make sure that you tell everybody that's an open communication. We typically like communicating through the chair, if that's okay, so that you can sort of be the conduit there, and then you can come to us, and that way you can see what the communication flow is
Sure.
going.
Absolutely.
All right?
For this first phase that you had on your schedule, if you want to just go back a couple of slides, what do you need this building committee to do to support that, so we can get that rolling quickly?
What we want to do is set up some meetings with the educators. I think that's the very first
Okay.
step. We've studied the ed spec very carefully. We do have a couple questions in there. We'll bring that up to the larger group. And then what we'll do is we'll start stepping through each of the blocks of space and begin to show you what we've done in other facilities, what some of the characteristics of that particular space is, what kind of setting it should be. The occupancy of each space is very, very important because that'll influence how we design the room. So we're going to want to hear that. Once we get into it, that process goes pretty quickly.
You're going to have one team that does both buildings or both contracts, I guess, at the same time?
Yes, the intent is to progress both buildings simultaneously as a single facility.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not our intent to take Dr. Macri's building and put it way over here. No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going to be attached, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be one team
Yeah.
doing the whole building at once type of thing, or if you're treating them separately.
Yeah, there will be different team members doing different parts because the central office is more of an office
Right.
rather than a school. So we do have some expertise that do workplace design,
Right.
and that information and that experience will be brought to your office.
Are there any schools that you've worked on that you recommend we visit?
Yeah, we can give you a list. Sure. Yep.
Similar schools,
Yep.
preferably.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean?
I'm trying to talk through you.
Oh, STEAM focused facilities.
Yeah, we just finished a very big STEAM program right in Norwalk. And that's a very nice program that Mike designed.
Is
We can-
Norwalk
we-
the one near New York? Or is that the other side? Is that Norwich?
That
Norwich is the other
Norwich is
Was-
east towards Rhode Island.
Was that a middle school?
Yes.
Don't go on a Friday.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, North Haven didn't have STEAM in it.
Oh, it didn't? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we can give you a list, and we'd love to go with you. You can see schools that are full of light and no carpet in the corridors. And acoustics that actually work. You'll see glass though. You'll see, a lot of transparency, and you'll see that sort of stuff that we do. But you can stand right in front of the glass and scream your head off, and no one's going to hear you on the other side. It's just that acoustically treated.
That's great.
Not that we recommend people scream their heads off in schools.
And then, excuse me, have you gone through a project where, at the end, there were some like lessons learned as like we probably shouldn't do that again, that we should be mindful of, that we don't go down that road? Anything major? As far as like what maybe they wanted and then they realized, we shouldn't have done that.
Well, I can think of some stuff. Let me give
Yeah,
some
think
thought
about
to
it.
that. Yeah.
There's a lot of, I like the idea of just incorporating some of the lessons learned
Sure.
from other school districts, because we always go in with an idea of what we want, like, oh yeah, this would be great if we could do like everything, just make a big glass building, and then you realize afterward, like, that was a horrible idea. Like, why did we think of that?
Yeah.
So we just want to avoid those traps.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay.
Yeah, generally, we try to have best value of the buck.
Right.
That's something that we're really concerned with. And so when we're making design recommendations, we're sort of thinking about that. And the other thing we're always thinking about is flexibility, because we know that teaching and learning is going to evolve. And so, we can't predict that precisely what's going to happen 20 years from now, but that building will be there. And that building has to be adaptable to the changing learning environment and technology and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Very good. And then as we move through anything, again, anytime you would need anything from us or from the town that you need help with getting, if people are slow responding to you, just let me know and I'll get on them. I know everyone on first name basis these days. All right. Jack, did you want to go through?
No, it's on. Good evening. Good to see some of you again. Many of you attended our interview, and it was nice to see more than just the selection committee having interest in that presentation. So thank you for participating, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you on this project. My name is Jack Butkus. I'll be the principal in charge for the Arcadis team. With me tonight is Emily Cifuentes. She's our financial controls manager, and she'll have some things to say as well. Our project manager during construction was not available to join us tonight, but you'll be seeing mostly me in the design phase, and then Ron will come in and dovetail into our team during the bid phase, and then ultimately be the on-site representative during construction and through closeout. As Joe mentioned, he and I have worked together on projects over decades. But we won't hold that against each other. I too am an architect, and having gone to the dark side, to the owner side of the table, sometimes looked a little cross-eyed by my peers in the architectural community. Mike and I were poking fun at each other walking around the building earlier. I made a comment about budget. We're going to save enough money to get your community center built. And he said, no, he started already. But one of our responsibilities to you is, as Joe mentioned, to help the project team, the committee, the consultants, and the educators achieve best value. Obviously, you want something that's going to be suitable today and flexible for tomorrow. All of those principles will definitely be adhered to as the project moves forward. As the owners, project managers, owners reps, our role is to hold, in important part, to hold the other project players accountable. And I think I might have mentioned it during our interview, and we got hired anyway. But one of those parties to be held accountable is the owner. And the timeliness of decisions, as Joe reflected, we've got a schedule that has some ambition behind it, and that's a good thing. One of the things that can happen, and many times does, not always, but many times can happen, is that the design phase can slip because of the do loop of, we need to make a decision, we're not quite ready for a decision yet, do we have to reach out to another stakeholder or interested party? Joe mentioned community outreach, and one of the tools that we've seen be effective, whether the committee creates a design subcommittee within itself or not, is to tap key community partners as members of what we call a design advisory committee. And that's a group that has a secondary function. Obviously, you have the fiduciary responsibility to the town. You need to make the tough decisions. But as a conduit of information to you, rather than, quite frankly, having the process become anarchy by committee, which can happen out of good intentions, but it can get into that so much information that it can't be processed, and then the time begins to slip. By having a design advisory committee, representatives of key stakeholders throughout the community can get direct information from the team, presentations by the design team, for instance, then report back to their constituency, just as representatives from the Board of Ed or from the town council would be the conduit to their bodies to share information about the project. So it becomes a much more efficient way of communicating and receiving information from those various stakeholders across the town. Oftentimes what we encourage on our projects is that the design advisory committee be engaged, say, early in schematics, but then again at the end of each of the major phases, end of schematics, design development, construction documents. And we've had building committees who literally put the architects, on notice that if the advisory committee has a strong objection, if there's something that the community in the broader sense has not seen dealt with appropriately, and appropriately means understanding that there are compromises and that not every wish that all the constituencies across the community have can be granted. But if there are any glaring inconsistencies, that the building committee will hold the design team accountable to trying to find a path to yes, or coming up with a more understandable reason why the answer is no. But that can be a very effective tool to leverage your efforts as a building committee and yet still offer the opportunity for the community to be heard. As we go through the various steps of the project, as Joe referred to, there are a number of trips up to the Office of School Construction Grants that the team will take. There is an extensive process of interaction with them. We touched on some of that in our presentation. It's something that we do repeatedly across the breadth of our projects, as Perkins Eastman is aware of. So we're all tuned in to the fact that the process is rigorous and sometimes the rules change. And as rules may not quite fit the profile of the project, there are times when we've sought some special relief. And as we walked around the auditorium and the comments in the introduction tonight about the capacity of the auditorium wanting to be for the full enrollment of the school. Well, the traditional approvable threshold is half of the student population as far as the seating area is concerned. The stage and support spaces are considered to be educational features. So the measurement isn't quite as strict on that aspect of it, whereas on the seating capacity, it will be. So that will be one of the areas of conversation with the state for sure. As we work through the process, and we all had heard the other had been hired, but this is our first interaction tonight. So what we presented tonight is truly a draft 90-day look ahead, and fortunately we're on similar wavelengths, so there aren't really glaring differences between what we've prepared and what Perkins Eastman has shown you. But we will be asking you to move, and again, the conversation about procurement is very timely, move forward with efforts such as the procurement process for your construction manager. There are other professionals that will need to be brought onto the team. Is environmental part of your group?
Yes.
It is. So that's one less procurement you have to go through. But we'll need a commissioning agent that is independent of the design team that will need to be hired by the committee. As far as the design team is concerned, yes, we have worked with Perkins Eastman. We've also worked with Richter and Segan. We've worked with CES. I'm working with both of them presently on another project. And I can echo Joe's sentiments that they're both organizations that are very in tune to the school market. They are, frankly, very good to work with, and I think that you'll be happy with the accessibility of the information that is brought forward to you by both of those entities. So I think you've got a good team assembled. And as we move forward, we want to, again, establish communications lines. We'll come up with what we can consider a project management plan that will work with the chair on developing. Communications is a big part of that. We've had some clients who say, whose client building committees who say, the architect is going to report to you and present to us, and they're not going to talk to us directly. We've had other committees that want that open committee to design team communication. Again, we have a proven method that has worked for our various clients, but it's by no means a rubber stamp, and we will customize all of our approaches to fit this committee's needs, the broader needs of the town, because of the unique circumstances of this project. So even though we bring tools to the table, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So we'll work with you on developing just how those interactions best work for you. So we'll go into more detail in future meetings on that. As the 90-day look-ahead spells out, there will be various trips through approval cycles, whether it's, again, part of that communication. Do you need or want to see these requests for proposals before they go out? Is there a smaller group that wants to, to manage the content? Is there something you've already got on the shelf that the town wants to use that we can help you implement? So, again, as our first introduction to all of you and our first conversation, a lot more to be done, and on a 2-week cycle, there's a lot more opportunity to interact, which frankly at this stage of the project is very healthy. So I won't take up too much time tonight. We'll have plenty of opportunity to dig deeper in the coming weeks. I'd like to turn our discussion over to Emily, who will talk about the interaction that we'll have on your behalf with the town's finance structure and crafting the financial plan, which at the end of the day, if it wasn't for the dollars, we wouldn't have a project. So although the architecture is, obviously the goal at the end of the race, we have to, tightly manage that financial picture in order for it to be successful. So, Em?
Good evening. My name is Emily Cifuentes, and I'm your financial controls manager. So I will be the one overseeing all the numbers while Jack and Ron work on the signing and the construction of the building. So if the next couple of weeks, I will set up meetings with the finance representatives. I need to get an idea as to where we stand, what are the processes that the town wants us to follow. Like Jack has mentioned, all clients are different. Some are just, we want to see everything before it goes anywhere. Others follow the town process, which is it goes straight to finance and they go from there. So as the chair, it would be important to also know what is your expectations, what are the processes that you want to see with regards to invoicing, with regards to change orders, with regards to a lot of procurement issues. These are things that they're small details, but when it comes to the finances, they're very important. As mentioned earlier about the space waiver, it will cause an impact on reimbursement, and that does also affect the cash flow, but we won't have an idea until we get further into the design and get to meet with OSCGR. I will be working closely with Ron to review and make sure that there is a set process for how to submit change orders to a state change order. Make sure that the architect turns in their documents on time so that things are done correctly and off to the state for review. The eligibility, as mentioned in our presentation, is important. There's a 6-month deadline for OSCGR to consider something ineligible if it's eligible and not submitted in time. So we have to work with that. There are a couple of signature processes that have to get together, forms that require the superintendent's signature, the finance director's signature. We need to know all of these small things, develop a budget for all the soft costs. And as part of the presentation, I did take a look that there was an established 7.6 for soft costs. So I'll work with Jack on developing a budget, sitting down with the finance director, seeing what accounts have already been established, what payments have been made already, and kind of tally that from there. So my first couple of 2 months will be just to get drafts out and see what works with them, and then bring them to you for your review and make sure that that will be our starting points. Because once the invoices start coming in, you'll need to know what's going on and where you stand. And I will be direct point of contact with the finance director and any finance person. So that's, to me, it becomes a bi-weekly. If they need me every day, that's fine. I'm there to answer a phone call. We will set up bi-weekly project meetings if necessary to review where we stand and where we are. Sometimes the client just likes to meet monthly just to get an update, or quarterly to see that we're all in agreement. And that's fine as well. We are here to work with your needs and see how what works best for you.
How long do you think it would take before we can get an idea of where we stand today? Like, how many weeks do you think you would need to get that information figured out with the town?
Well, after tonight, the project kickoff, I've gathered the 3 names from the presentation. So I will if I can get their contact information and email, I will send out an email to them, establish a introductory meeting with myself, Jack, the team, and get to know them, get to see where we are. I'll ask for the reports to be sent to me, for their financial reports, get an idea from there. So it would we probably a couple of weeks, just 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how much information we are and their availability, because schedules do affect. So we're here to adapt to their time frame and just set up and just let you know this is where you are, this is where your reimbursement rate is, this is where we forecast where we will be. But again, getting mentioned about space waiver, that does kind of put something else to the to the expectation. There are some impact that will be deemed by OSCGR, and we won't know until that actually gets put together and approved by them.
When does a space waiver have to go through? Like, when do you think that whole effort should start?
I think realistically, we need to probably be through the schematic phase. And
Yeah.
when we have our meeting with the state at that stage,
Okay.
then that will be one of the topics of discussion. What is our square footage? Does it fit within their template? And moreover, even if we're within the overall square footage, as they look at individual components, we could have 1,000 seats in the auditorium because the high school didn't have one, perhaps. And they would say, wait a minute, this is, you're not building a high school, you're not building a concert hall, you're building a middle school. We're going to pay for this much of it. And then the discussion ensues.
Okay.
And then after that, once Jack and the team meet with OSCGR and OSCGR makes their decision, then we will know how much of an impact that will be, and that will cause a change and another discussion with finance to let them know this is where we will be and this is what we project to be. As mentioned in our presentation, the state stops reimbursing once you reach 85% of all construction costs until you complete the project and close it out. It's their way of saying you have to finish. Don't let it sit there for 10 years.
Yeah.
A good thing that did come before May of 22, the state would withhold 11% of each progress payment request, but now they're only withholding 5%. So that's a good thing, I guess, but that a progress payment request process, something that we will have to talk with the superintendent and see how she would like to proceed. Again, each client is different. There's a client that says, this is what you do. You figure it out. You're in daily contact with them. I don't want them to call me and say, what's this number about? And I have no idea. So that's fine as well. In our daily interactions with OSCGR and my daily contacts with Michelle, it becomes, Emily, I'm about to do this. I need you to pinpoint it. And that's good too. So if that's what the superintendent decides to do, then that's what our process will be, and we will establish the process. So that's basically my part on finance, but I will be with you guys beginning now all the way to close out when we do the financial reconciliation, let you know what the town cost actually will be once the project is completed.
I would say at the top of my head, at a minimum, we would probably want a budget status at each of our meetings.
Okay.
Just saying, these are major categories. This is where we are. This is how much we spent. This is how much you have left, type of thing.
Some of that information is only run through the town. Again, each town being different, but the information may only be available on a monthly basis. It depends on how frequently we can get reports out of the town finance
Out of the town. Okay. Whatever the frequency is. I mean, if it's once a month, that's fine too. But
I don't want to be ignorant, but so when we're talking about finances, is it going through the monies
it goes to the town
through
finance.
the town finance?
Yeah.
So it would really be
Their
meetings
money.
with
Mary Ann and
Ann,
Sharon.
not with Ann.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
Sharon DeVoe would probably be your point of contact because she's the one managing this project. She's the assistant finance director.
We'd love to have you, and she'd want to meet with you every day. She's wonderful.
Now, wait a minute.
Great job, too.
Yeah, there's we met Sharon at the interview, but I will set up my meeting with her and with any other team as with more projects. The town is the one that manages the funds.
Right.
So our process to be discussed will be with Sharon. You know, how does she want to process the invoices? Does she need the meeting minutes from this committee? Does she need the approval, everything? So that's part of the main important part in there.
Moreover, does this committee want to see every invoice
Yes.
before it gets paid? That's something that varies from committee to committee. We have some clients where they say, well, there's a purchase order for this entity. Do you, as the project managers, approve of their invoice? If so, pass it through and get it paid. We have other clients that want to see literally every invoice as an agenda item at a building committee meeting before it goes forward for payment. So we'll need to establish that.
How many invoices per meeting would that lead to? Are we talking like 30, 20, 100?
FF&E and things like that, you could literally have 100 on your.
Oh, gosh. Maybe we have to discuss about like over certain amounts, you know? Like, we don't need to approve $100 something or other, but if it's like 50,000, that's something we probably want to look at. Set a threshold.
We don't need to get into it tonight. but
Right.
The process we had established in Colchester that I think was very effective, and I'll share that with the committee.
Okay.
It was a synopsis of all the invoices that went to the committee. So the committee wasn't looking through thousands of pages of
Okay.
invoices. It was,
Just a summary. A summary?
just a summary.
Just amounts, yeah.
Prior to even submitting most of the invoices to some committees, we are in another client. We will be overseeing the architect, the commissioning, and making sure that the percentages completed align with what it is before sending a recommendation for payment. So, like Ken said, it's not something you have to think about tonight, but
Right.
it's something that we will be discussing with Sharon as to let's establish a process
Okay.
from moving forward.
Okay. And then, Jack, what's Arcadis's involvement in the selection process for the construction management and commissioning agent, any other firms come along?
Very often, we're tasked with getting the request for proposals out on the street. We'll work through town hall to get it onto the state website, et cetera. And then we'll facilitate that process. You know, we don't have a vote in anything. We package it. We put the information together in a digestible form for the committee, whether it's a selection committee or the entire committee. You know, we can share that information and tee that all up for your review. We'll help you set up interviews if interviews are, when interviews are required, and just facilitate that process and be your hands and feet as far as staff level assistance to the committee to make it happen.
Okay. And then in your experience with other building committees you've worked with, what has been their specific involvement in that process?
Well, as your committee worked, in our interview process, there was a subcommittee, a selection committee that was empowered to make a recommendation. Oftentimes, that is the format that a subset of the building committee, sometimes without outside people as part of the decision-making process, whether they be stakeholders, people like a town council member, a board of ed member, somebody from the community, if there are particular aspects that are sensitive, would be part of a selection committee and then bring their recommendation to the full building committee for action. We understand here there's another layer of that this committee then passes their recommendation onto the town manager, and you don't have the final say under the current format.
Are in other building committees, do they usually have the final say?
Very often, yes. Yeah, so the selection committee would make a recommendation, and then the appointed members, the voting members, would make the final decision.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
If-
But I'm sorry, I have to leave. I have a family situation going on, not a serious one, just someone locked themselves out.
Happens.
If you could, I'm 100% available, whatever Rosanna and the committee says. We are 100% ready to have an interview and work with you on ed specs starting tomorrow. I'll line up the team. I'm sure Blaze will be #1 on the list. The principal too, she's a Spitfire, and I noticed there's a lot of Italians, so there's gonna be a lot of energy in these rooms, and she's one of them too, so feel free to, however it works, let us know. We can we're ready to start as early as tomorrow.
Thank
And
you.
excited to work with all of you.
It's still an early night, Enza.
That's right. It's still early. If I could just add something. When you were discussing with Joe the dual project factor of
Yep.
the school and the Board of Ed offices, working with Mr. Jackson, we accomplished something similar to that in Colchester. There are some accounting tools that we can use in order to keep that more smoothly operating during construction. Yes, it should be designed holistically as one continuous design effort, as they, ultimately it is all one facility. So,
Right.
we've
We have to be
seen-
mindful of the billing, right? Because it goes to two different accounts.
Yes, yes. So, processing invoices, whether it be for design all the way through construction, FF&E, et cetera. I've got somebody who's crunched those numbers before. So. She may be sitting to my left, but she truly is my right arm.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions for either Perkins or? No? No discussion? Nothing? Okay. So going through the agenda, back to the agenda, I think we talked about the timeline and as far as communication plan, I assume any file transfer will be done through email, or do you have a system set up like a Google Drive or something for us to share files? Or do we just do it all through email?
We use Newforma for file transfers.
Use what? I'm sorry?
Newforma.
Newforma?
Yeah. So we would set everybody up with the access to that, and then we would transfer large files through that. Smaller files sometimes we would just do through email, but it would be filed in Newforma.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Anything else on communication you want to ask?
Yes, so, as part of that, the communications will go through Rosanna from both your firms. That would be your preference, right, to filter things through. I just want to echo that, yeah, if you're working with, other groups or organizations with the town and are not getting a response, like, please don't hesitate to reach out to Rosanna, but I would say myself too, to help move that along. We know we're on a condensed timeline, and we're not afraid to, keep things moving where we need to.
Yeah, in fact, copy me on anything you send, especially to the town manager's office or the finance office, just so I'm aware that those communications are happening.
Yeah, and then, as we move forward and think through, I like, in both presentations, how you're thinking through the community involvement, the communications subcommittee, is happy to figure out how we get the right people there, if we're inviting, larger groups or whatever. So we'll work all of that through, but happy to hear kind of the different ways it's been done before, for sure.
So between now and our next meeting, which is, when's our next meeting? October 4th? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th. October 5th. What major tasks do you think we're going to try to hit on? Next 2 weeks. Do we want to, I have information I got to throw at Perkins. I got the ed spec. We're going to try and get you the drawings that you need.
Let me answer your question with a question.
Sure.
Has an initial meeting with, or when was the most recent meeting with the Office of School Construction Grants? Because I'm assuming somebody's spoken to them somewhere during the process.
Meeting, I'm not sure of, but the last communication we had with them was an email that I was aware of that was sent mid-July of them missing some form that CSG supplied them. That was the last interaction I'm aware of. I'm not sure of any other conversations.
Although the official process does no longer lists what used to be known as the prep meeting, they do like to have that initial meeting even before the schematic design review.
Okay.
So we will reach out to them, to Perkins Eastman and to OSCGR to see when they want to have that initial,
And
to know you, getting to know the project.
who's in that meeting besides them? Just
It
both.
can include members of the committee or a representative from the district. That way we can hear from the stakeholders in the project.
Since most of you are employed, I'm willing to go up to the state with these guys for those meetings.
Okay.
It's the committee's pleasure.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'd also like to probably interface with you, Rosanna, to find out what the process, the approved process will be to get the wheels turning on selecting the construction manager.
Yep.
Although the commissioning agent will be important to verify the design as the design develops, we do have an expectation that the construction manager is going to produce an estimate in concert with the architects at the end of schematics. So by the time schematics is done, mid-December, thereabouts. We want to make sure that we have plenty of time to get through the process. It typically is a request for qualifications, a review by the committee, shortlist, and then interviews similar to what you've already done with the architects and us.
So we have an agenda item tonight to select our subcommittee or selection committee for both the, I put contractor, but the CM and the commissioning agent. That should have said construction firm, not contractor firm.
Happy to work with you. We have examples from previous solicitations we can offer you if you need something to start from. We can look at something the town's already done on the records, and suggest some best practice language.
Okay.
If it is the town's template, that we're happy. Is there going, has the town identified counsel, whether internal or external attorneys, to work with you?
We have a town attorney that we work with. Yeah. So the process, so tonight we'll nominate a selection committee. That selection,
Right? A recommendation.
yep, it'll be a recommendation. That recommendation then goes to the town manager. Town manager approves the recommendation for the selection committee. Once that is approved, then the selection committee could work with you to come up with the RFQs. We were talking about, so in your round, we did RFQ, RFP together. We sent it out at once. I'm not sure if that was the best way to do it. Maybe we need to do the RFQs first and then the RFPs second. Whatever you think. Ken, you're of the opinion we should do them separate, right?
Well, for the CM especially, because the volume of work that the CMs have to put into coming up with a proposal is different than an architect and a project manager.
Okay.
So you would go out with the RFQ to select maybe 3 firms, 2 firms, whatever, and then have them submit the proposals.
Okay. And then, the proposals will go out. We'll get the RFQs back, the qualification forms back. The selection committee will review it. The process that we had with both of you was that recommendation come back to the building committee. We voted on it, we approved it, and they moved forward. That is not how the purchasing policy is written. I don't know if we will be allowed to do that this go around. It may just be the selection committee does it all on their own in association with the town manager. We're trying to figure that out. I'm hoping we have that all figured out. That's kind of the letter that I was alluding to in my update. Hoping to have that figured out before we get to that point with the CM. But our preference, obviously, is to have the selection committee come to us. We can talk about it, review it, approve it, and then move forward to notifying the firms that are part of the shortlist to then submit their RFPs. So,
Sorry to interrupt, but as part of the audit for project, there needs to be an action item and a motion of you acknowledging the recommendation of the selection committee. So there has to be some record that says that you as the building committee whole know the recommendation. So there should be a recommendation about Brooklyn's easement, about Arcadis, so that when the auditors take a look at this, they're able to say, oh, so the overall committee did approve or the recommendation. So there has to be something in the record.
I think that by law, by the structure of the funding statutes, the town designates a building committee and gives them the responsibility for the project. If, for instance, even when reviewing, or if you endorse the recommendation of the selection committee, and then it went to town hall, and it's not going to be number 1, it's going to be number 2. that would still need to come back to the committee, and you would have to do something to formalize that selection in order to get it into your project record as far as
Can you
by the committee.
can you do me a huge favor and forward me the statute that calls that out so I can convince?
The statute is, other than saying that the town needs to designate one, the inference behind the scenes is that you are given fiduciary responsibility, and if the state thinks something is wrong, they turn to you first, not to town leadership. So I'll see. Unfortunately, the statutes don't give us the favors that we would like them to do as far as offering clarity, because many times a town comes up with a question, and how should I organize my building committee? What should they do and not do? And although we have a lot of past practice that we can provide examples of, there's nothing that's, there's like Board of Ed, there's policy and then there's procedure.
Right.
So policy is the statutory language that says thou shalt be the building committee. There's not the procedure that actually gives you the roadmap as to how to behave.
Right, and that's what we're struggling with.
Until it gets to the auditors, and then they interject and say, oh, they didn't do this, we're not gonna pay that bill.
As part of the checklist that's provided by the auditors, since we have closed out projects recently, the requirement is that all building committee meeting minutes are provided, and this is where most of the actions will take place. As part of the reconciliation, we provide the auditors with a breakdown of all the contracts that are issued, the process that they were done by, and the approval date of that committee, so that they're able to go to the meeting minutes and say, oh, this is what it is.
We can provide you with that.
Yeah,
So we
we can provide it as part of the letter that you see, hey, we're coming to your town, and you
Yeah.
have this in these files, well then, here's your it's ineligible for reimbursement.
So the building committee voted on the recommendation for the shortlist for both firms, but we did not vote on their recommendation for finalists. They were not allowed to by the town. So does that mean we need to vote on it now?
Well, you may not have been the final arbiter of the award, but as the entity that is gonna be working with the various parties hired, basically the record needs to show that you're agreeing to work with them, that you are designating them with the responsibilities of their individual roles.
They're already selected though. We'll have to have it in record.
Your motion could be said about having a recommendation as approved by the town manager, because that's the one that made the final approval. So, but it has to be somewhere in the record. Again, when I put these files together for the auditors, and I provide all of the RFP books, RFQ books, and the short list, part of the record will be that short list that you develop. These are all records, and it will follow with the contract, and will follow by the meeting minutes. There has to be meeting minutes that show who is the awarded person. Otherwise, how do they know?
And the motion could be as straightforward as, the building committee endorses the selection by whoever other than you was making the selection, and get it into your record. It can be very, very straightforward motion.
We need to do it tonight, endorsing both
Yeah,
that are here.
right. I think we need to do
And
that.
follow that same process for the construction manager in your meeting. We endorse the decision of, unfortunately, I'm not making it up. Having been through audits, it is the questions that they're asking. They don't ask for the town records. They ask
For the building
what's
committee.
the building committee meeting minutes, and we have to provide them a binder of all the meeting minutes. In most of my clients, what I do is with each purchase order, let's say, of a board of a CM or an architect, if we were brought up first, it would be the complete package. The meeting minutes, the contract, the RFP, the RFQ, here's the awarded one, and here's everybody that didn't make it. That's the way that we will be setting up your files for audit. We just need to let you know up front, so
Right.
it's not a surprise to us.
Okay. So we probably need to vote tonight on our two new firms.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just something that says that we're here.
Is there a motion to approve the town manager's approval of endorsement of Perkins Eastman as our architect and Arcadis as our project management firms. Anyone second it?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay. Motion passes. Very good. Let's get that in the record. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm sorry? I did it for both of them. But that's really good information to have, because I think that's something we've been struggling with the town, is our insertion of what the building committee's roles and responsibilities are in the entire process. They like their control. We like our control. So trying to figure out like what is the expectation, and I think the state probably trumps town expectations. Right. We don't want to. Right. Right. Exactly. I'm fine with that. That's fine. Any other discussion, by the way? Any comments, questions?
I was just going to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. I think it's safe to assume that we don't know everything. We have a ton of experience on this committee, but not all of us have been through projects like this before. So happy to hear if there are process gaps that we have, because many of us are learning as we go. So please don't assume that all of us know all of it.
Assume we know nothing.
There's some that know all of it, but yeah, that's just I appreciate that.
And just a final, that will also be part of my discussion with Sharon to advise her that we do need these things to be part of the record. That building committee does need to make it an agenda item or an action item.
And you might want to tell her that we don't vote on anything without discussing it first.
Exactly.
So. Okay, we had one more item under new business, which is to select and possibly vote for a construction management firm selection committee, as well as, it's not on here, but we probably should do the commissioning agent at the same time. I guess some things to discuss. Do we want one team to do both again? Do we want to change up the team? Thoughts? It's getting late. We just want to get it over with. You want 2 different teams? Anyone? Okay. Okay. I do want to make sure we have both male, female representation on this team from the committee this next go around. And I know there was talk, Ken, you had mentioned maybe getting the town engineer involved. I'm not sure if he will be available to do that work.
Steve Fortenbach made it pretty clear earlier that it's up to us as long as we include Sharon.
Okay. So Sharon DeVoe, the assistant finance director, will automatically is on the team. She'll be on both teams. She'll be with us throughout the whole thing. So let's start with the construction management firm. Does anyone want to be on that selection committee? Let's start there. Ken, John, and then Heather, Jessica, Shannon.
I can do it. I'll do it.
All right, Shannon wants to be on it. So Shannon, John, Post, and Ken. Is there a motion to approve the 3 of them as the selection committee recommendation for the construction manager?
So moved.
Anyone second it?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passes. And then the second one is for the commissioning agent. So maybe pick some different people. I could be on that one, or, oh, Jessica, fantastic. Jessica. She hides. Ken Cleveland, Jessica. Ken Jackson, you want to do that one too? Sure. Okay. All right, so the Kens and Jessica, yes,
Do we need to amend the agenda
probably.
to add the selection? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
To do the commissioning agent.
Yeah. we'll do that after this vote. Is there a motion to approve?
Amend the agenda first.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add item A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Or to item F, add commissioning agent,
And also change the word contractor to construction.
and change the word contractor to construction. I'd like to, I'm making that motion.
Anyone second that?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passes. Now, is there a motion to approve Jessica, Ken Cleveland, and Ken Jackson as the selection committee for the commissioning agent?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Motion passes. Okay, that's all for new business. Communications Subcommittee report.
Okay, I'll keep it quick. We sent our newsletter in the beginning of September to our list of 285 people at this time. We continue to have a good open rate of 70%. Our social media engagement was down a little bit in August, but to be expected as the project ramps up again. We'll continue adding there. I should have caught Dr. Macri on her way out. I wanted to touch base with her about emailing the school list. I'm still waiting on an answer for that. The committee will meet next week to plan out our October communications. And I think you all saw we have a Branford school tour scheduled for October 27th. And then I think we just need to, John brought for some dates. Do you want to just finalize that now, John, for Beaman Middle School?
Yeah, so I threw out, what date was it here? Next week, the 27th, which is probably best for Roseanne, I know that. So is everybody else good for the 27th to tour Beaman Middle School? Does that work for everyone?
Like, what time?
I was thinking 3:45. Gives the principal, he's gonna, so he'll be in on it.
I can't make it, but it's okay.
There'll be other ones too.
Yeah, I trust you all.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
So we have majority of us can go?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll
I should
do,
be able to go.
I'll firm it up with them then at 3:45 on next week, Tuesday the
27th.
27th. For a tour of Beaman Middle School.
We're gonna meet at the middle school.
Yeah, we'll meet right at the front entrance.
Beanan?
Beaman, Beman.
Middletown. Okay,
Okay, that concludes my report.
thank
Any
you.
questions?
What is open rate?
How many people opened the email?
Oh, open email.
Yeah, it didn't just sit in their inbox.
Oh, you get that number. Oh, sneaky. I like that.
I do have a quick question. Can you let us know when it's okay to officially announce, for example, on social media, who our new partners
As
are?
soon as Tony, I mean, it's ready. Everyone knows about it, so. They're watching it right now.
They know now, but we
Rumors-
want to make
rumors
sure.
abound.
Yeah, just give us the green light. It's okay. We've got our social media posts ready to go.
I'd say as
Everything,
soon
but
as Tony signs off, it's kosher. And we
Okay.
can-
we're ready when you are.
They don't like it when we jump the gun before they do their thing, so.
It's okay. That's why we ask.
Yeah, yeah. Though technically we're jumping the gun, but that's okay. Any other comments or discussions? There's no other public people here.
I just want to say, I had a 3-hour professional development meeting for the teachers this afternoon. So I would like to change the ed specs to put a cot in my room. Second, we were told today that we will be rewriting our entire curriculum to focus on the new STEAM school and project-based learning starting for the next 2 years. So when we go over there, we're ready to go. So, and the
Excellent.
teachers are very excited. So just want to let you know.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Russ,
Ken, you bring up such good points. Yes, we probably do need chairs for, do we need to vote on that, or someone just wanna? We have to vote on that? Okay, all right. All right, let's start with the the construction manager. So we had Shannon, Ken, and John. Either one of you want to be the chairperson? Shannon, you want to be a chairperson?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a motion to have Shannon be the chairperson for the construction management?
Happily so.
Is there a second?
You all can take it up with my spouse.
All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? One abstention. Okay. And then for the commissioning agent, we had Jessica, Ken Cleveland, and Ken Jackson. Either one of you want to be the chairperson? She's shaking her head no. Oh, there's a second. Any
If I'm an alternate, can I still nominate someone else, and then we can actually have a vote off? Even though I can't vote.
Well, we could. Who would you recommend? We can have a
No,
discussion.
if that's, I'll do it if the team recommends that.
Okay, I think the team recommends that.
I'm sorry, it's late. You know, I have to keep us on our
It'll
toes.
be fantastic. Don't worry about it. Is there a motion to approve Jessica as the commissioning agent, selection committee chairperson? Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Yep.
All opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passes. Any other comments, updates, anything else before we call it a night?
oh, I have a quick comment. You've mentioned that we should copy you in an email, especially as I'm going to be setting up these introductory meetings with finance. Is there a way I can get your email, or is there a listing that provides the email addresses of the committee?
Yes, I do have a list, so I will send that to Jack. I'm not sure if I have yours either, so maybe we can do a little email exchange, and I'll send it to you too, Joe.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have it all in a OneNote, so just.
Jack, can you share a sample RFQ for commissioning agent? Sure. Send it to Rosanna.
And construction manager.
Also, is it possible to get a copy of your presentation emailed over to Rosanna? We just keep all of them on the website for transparency reasons, so.
And through the chair, if I may, can we ask Lisa to get a directory now with all the new players so that everybody has email addresses and whatnot?
No.
Okay.
Yes, that'd be very good. Lisa, if you can do that for us, thank you. And I'll put it in our OneNote too, and I'll attach the OneNote to Teams, so you should all have access to it. There'll be an image in Teams, and I'll email it out. So you'll get it in every avenue that you have access.
Perfect. Can you text it to me too?
And I'll text it to you. Yep. Snapchat it to you.
Important to stress, though, that lines of communication do go through you.
Yes,
So not the committee members aren't hitting up the architects and all that.
I'm the funnel.
At least we have the contacts. And
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
we'll move.
Second? Do I hear a second? John, thank you. All in favor of adjourning this meeting, please?
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Have a